Hey guys, Dragon Ball for Life here today, and I'm back with another video. Now today's video I want to talk about Frieza's power levels. Now I know a lot of you guys say, well, power levels are bullshit and they don't matter, and they're just meaningless. And I'm not going to argue that they are or they aren't, even though I personally feel like, yeah, I agree that they are BS. Though I do think some people's arguments and reasonings are kind of a little bit ridiculous. That's not the point. The point is I want to talk about Frieza's power level. Now, back in the Saiyan saga and the Frieza saga, power levels were heavily, shown and talked about. And though they stopped using them later after on, in the Cell saga and definitely not in the Buu saga, they stopped using it. It does still have an importance in, the Dragon Ball fan base. And people always try to refer to it when they talk about the power scaling or how powerful these characters are when they show like how much stronger they got throughout the fight. And I will give them credit for, at least in the Saiyan and the Frieza saga, because even though the Saiyan and Frieza saga had crazy, power jumps, especially the Frieza saga, those the power levels weren't, incorrect. There was no mathematical error. So I thought, which I will get into that. There was no mathematical error. If you look at Goku, his power level was 3 million before when he started fighting Frieza. And then once when he went Super Saiyan 1, which was a 50 times multiplier, he went to 150 million, a power level of 150 million. So it was mathematically it all added up. He came to Planet Namek to fight against what's his name, Captain Ginyu. He came out of the ship with 90. Well, actually prior to that, he had around power level of 8,000, 9,000. Depending on the dub or the translation. He had around 8,000, 9,000. He trained times from 10 times to 100 times Earth's gravity, which was around 10. And his power level went up to 80 or 90,000. Power level 80 to 90,000. So the math added up right there. And then when he went against, Ginyu, and he went Kaioken times 2, his power went from, it went from 90,000 to 180,000. So the math added up. So I know a lot of people try to discredit, the power levels in, Dragon Ball and say, well, it doesn't matter. But mathematically, it does, it is consistent. And the reason why I'm saying this is there's a big, I wouldn't say confusion because a lot of people don't talk about it, but there's a big problem when it comes to Frieza's power level for me. Now, Frieza's power level in his first form, let's go through all of his forms and, the transformation and stuff. Now, in his first form, his power level is 530,000, and his final form, 100%, is 120 million. Now, usually people, to find out how much stronger Frieza got from, his first form to his final form, 100%, they basically, they divide, the 120 million by 530,000, or sometimes, they just, what's the thing called? They go by the percentage that he went up by, 100 times and stuff. And basically, when you divide that, you get 226 times. So basically, Frieza gets 226 times more powerful from when he was in his first form to his 100% final form. Now, the problem with the multiplier of the 120 million and what we got is when you look at through each transformation, there is quite a bit of a, problem when it comes to his third form and his fourth and final form. Now, in his first form, his power level is 530,000. His second form multiplies his power by 2, which would basically mean his power went up to 1 million. He does also stated my power is over 1 million, which if you do the math, it goes up to 1,060,000, which is a little bit over 1 million. Then you go to his third form, which is stated to also be 2 times, which would basically multiply his power times 2. So it would be from 1,060,000 to 2,100 and I think 50,000 around there. So it would be around 2 million for his third form. But if you look at the power levels, it showcases that his final form when he first transforms, the 1% that he had prior to fighting Goku, fully, it was at 1.2. It was a 1.2 million, which contradicts it because it doesn't make sense. That would basically mean final form Frieza at 1% is barely stronger than his second form, and is technically weaker than his third form. And some people might say, well, it's 1%, so it should be less. But even so, at 1%, the transformation alone should be, surpassing the other forms. And the fact that it's barely higher than, the second form, and it's weaker somehow than the third form doesn't make sense. Personally, I feel like Toriyama didn't know what he was, I think he got a mathematical error right here. And for years, for some reason, people haven't said anything about the math not adding up. Because if you see his 50%, he's at 60 million, which obviously half of 120 million is 60 million, But 1% of that would be 1.2 million. But if we're going by the multipliers by, his transformations, then it would make no sense that his third form would have that level of power. And I've seen some people on, like the blogs and stuff doing the multipliers and stuff. And from what I saw, they only did the first form, the second form, then they went to skip the third form and went to automatically the final form, which would basically technically, contradict the multipliers that we see and, when it comes to Frieza's power level. Now, the reason I'm saying this is, well, this ruins kind of the power levels and stuff. Because if we're going by logic, because people are saying that each transformation goes up by 2 until we get to the final where, it goes up by 100. It goes up by quite a bit, when it's a transformation alone. It goes up by, 100 when he goes full powered. So if we were to go, let's say, by the actual mathematics and calculations for it and see how powerful he would become. So 530,000 times 2, yes, 1,060,000 times that by another 2, which would be basically, his third form would be 2,120,000, but his final form was less than that. And obviously, if you do the math, 120 divided by 100 is, 1.2, right? Is 1.2 million. But that makes no sense. Why is it 120 million? What I'm trying to say is his base should have been more higher than that. Because now if you multiply it by, the 100, just 100 alone from his final form, it would mean his power level would be 212 million, not 120 million. Now, obviously, there was some complications because Super Saiyan is a 50 times multiplier, and if Goku's times was 3 million, times that by 50 would go up to 150, which would technically make him less than Frieza in his final form if they went with the math correctly. I don't know what happened with the multiplier with his, his third form then. But logically speaking, Goku, even with Super Saiyan, should have been weaker than, final form Frieza, because, his first form should have been multiplied by 2, then his second form should have been multiplied by another 2, and then whatever multiplication they gave for his final form, and then the additional 100%, which would be like 100 times multiplier. So it really contradicts it, and I've never seen anybody talk about how the power levels for Frieza doesn't make sense. Technically, I feel like they should have done 2 things then if they wanted to make the power levels match up or make any sense. One, either make Goku's power level when he comes out of the not the hyperbolic time chamber, the healing chamber, the rejuvenation chamber, his power level should have been higher than 3 million, because obviously if he's going to get 50 times boost and he's supposed to be beating Frieza and dogging him, and Frieza's power level should be higher than that, he can't really be dogging him at that point. He would be considerably weaker than Frieza. So they could have, raised his power level when he came out. And if people say, well, that's too much of a BS, multiplier, because let's be honest, the amount of power that he was able to gain from, fighting against Ginyu and Vegeta and putting him in the healing chamber coming out, and the power level that he was able to obtain once when he got out is very ridiculous. So I think the best thing they should have done is at least lower, Frieza's power level. They could have lowered his power level to, less than 530,000 in his first form. Because if you're going to do that and try to match it up, it doesn't make sense this way. Because now we're going to be having to ignore his third form's multiplier or whatever, or trying to make it work with the final form. It just does not make sense for me personally. If I'm being honest, I just think it's dumb. I think they should have, changed the power levels for either Goku or Frieza so the multipliers work. Or, just not have his third form in there if they're going to do that anyway, Because if they're not going to do that, why don't you just have his final form or whatever? But yeah, the math is just all messed up. Him having 120 million does not make any sense, how he has 120 million power level fully and 1.2 million when, like his second form was already over 1 million at that point. It wasn't as close to that, but it was still pretty much over 1 million. So it's just like, it doesn't make sense. The multipliers and stuff doesn't make sense very well. But then again, if I'm being honest, and I'm not trying to make fun of Toriyama or say he's dumb or anything, but Toriyama is not very well known for numbers, and whenever he puts a numerical value in something, it usually doesn't make much sense. Like when it comes to feats of speed or strength, and he puts a numerical value, it's kind of contradictory. Like the 40 tons thing with Goku, or him going across Snake Lane, which is supposed to be 1,000,000 kilometers, but then it takes him like super long, which he should be a lot faster than that. So yeah, his numbers, he's not really good at that. And he did stay very consistently well when it came throughout the Saiyan saga and the Frieza saga with the multipliers and stuff, except for when it came to Frieza. And he did state, it was stated in, an interview or whatever, that he was technically not going to make Super Saiyan 1 a 50 times multiplier, but a times 10, which would make no sense because Uzara form was already times 10, and Frieza would be significantly more powerful than Goku no matter what. And 10 times the boost would not be enough to beat Frieza. I just think that's kind of dumb as a concept that he would lower his power level or the multiplier that low to times 10 when, times times 10 would just be a Zara level. That would be like, what's the point of Super Saiyan? Or he can even use Kaioken and stuff. He needs a form that would be past any of his other forms or multipliers that he could obtain, naturally. So that didn't make sense either. But yeah, I just think when Toriyama puts numbers and stuff, it doesn't really make much sense. It's bad when it comes to a strength, numbers when it comes to how much they can lift or how far they can travel and the amount of time that they can travel in, or the power levels when it comes to Frieza. Like I said, they stayed consistently very well, except for when it came to him and his weird thing about the whole Super Saiyan multiplier. The only other thing I could say about this is I can see now kind of why Toriyama stopped using power levels in the Cell Saga and then didn't use them at all in the Buu Saga, because one, if you put a numerical value on stuff, it makes it less intense, because then if you know what the power level of somebody is, the number, then you'll be like, well, that guy's gonna obviously win. And another thing is, like I said, I don't think he could keep up with the math very well, and the math wouldn't be consistent, so there'd be contradictions like this which don't make sense. So yeah, this is definitely an inconsistency when it comes to the, either the writing or power skill, whatever. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This video wasn't supposed to be super in-depth. It was just supposed to be one thing that I've noticed about Dragon Ball that I feel like it doesn't really make much sense, and I just want to go on it a little bit. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and stay tuned for next time.